we're gone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Then and Now podcast. We are back with another episode. I have my co-host with me, Mr. Lelouch V. How you doing?
Not too bad. Yeah, we'll talk more. We'll talk more. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Ethan King, the Comics Murphy. How you doing, brother? Okay then.
I'm great. I was able to dodge a bullet with a bomb. I am happy.
Yeah,
I am thrilled.
you high? That was a delayed ass response, my boy.
It's not him. It was not him. That was the computer. Because
No, my response is audio wise should have been perfectly on time. If it's the stall is because of obviously the background, which you knew about, Dev. But thanks for calling it out.
Oh, I thought I stalled the camera, not the audio. My bad. Let's.
Is the audio stall too?
No.
Can you? If you're hearing us on time, I was like, because those are the late response you gave us. I was like, damn, did he hear us say something?
No, he responded immediately. First thing he said was,
I responded right after you spoke.
Right.
Yeah, he said, and then just like didn't say nothing. I'm like, damn, that's it.
Right after you spoke.
Well, my bad. I expected a little dialogue. My bad. For everybody that's watching.
Wait. What did you hear? What did you hear me say, Dev?
I heard you say, and then like 5 seconds went by, and then you said something else.
It wasn't that was a very long 5 seconds in your brain because he was like, and then he
that's not what happened.
I guess I'm crazy.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
I'll run the footage back. I'll run the footage back after this.
We're off to a great start. We're off to a fantastic start. This is the show. This is as good as it gets. It's all downhill from here.
Yes. Then in our podcast, greatest podcast in the world, universe, the galaxy, and the multiverse. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Greatest podcast in the world.
Oh God. Today we're going to get into some topics. We have a lot of interesting things that have been confirmed and leaked for upcoming projects that a lot of people may be interested in. And we'll get into before we get into it, for anybody that's watching and you want to know what this gameplay footage we have going on is, this is a game that I've been trying to get Otis to play for years now, Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, pass.
Yeah, so if you guys are fans of the series, let us know in the comments below, etc., etc. Starting with the first topic of the day. Drum roll, please. HBO declares the premiere date for House of the Dragon, August 21st. I know we all here. Well, I don't think we've ever talked about it in length with Ethan before, but I know me and Otis at least were fans of Game of Thrones up until the last season, like most people. So are you guys excited for this? Do you guys even care about the prequel?
I'm gonna watch it, but like, at this point, I am so used to being disappointed by content that I can't bring myself to just be like, yes, this content is gonna be great before I see it anymore. It is something I am incapable of at this point, I feel. But I am definitely going to watch it. I know the quality that they are capable of bringing. I mean, at the heights, Game of Thrones was like legitimately the best thing on television to me. So if they bring that type of energy, I'm hopeful for what the series can become. But am I excited for it? No, not even a little bit.
I feel like you're traumatized, man. I feel bad for you because you were literally traumatized from content now. Like literally, if y'all are interested, whenever we're in a group chat, I'll send Otis some songs, or it'll be a new show or movie coming out, and this man will literally just be so just like, it's gonna suck, or I don't expect anything. I'm like, damn, you ain't happy about shit. Fuck.
It's not that it's not that I'm not happy about it. Just like, yeah, I'll listen to it when it's out. Like, I'll form my opinion then. But like, amping myself up beforehand and expecting it to be good when it could very potentially not be, I'm not going to do that anymore. For what?
Fair enough.
Do you go in at neutral, or do you go in? It seems like, I think what it sounds like what Dev is saying is you're going in pessimistically, like you're going in already expecting it to be bad, as opposed to.
Well, I did that for Morbius, but we can talk about that when we actually do the review on it. I mean, most things, no. I just watch it and just like, all right, hopefully it's good.
All right. What about you, Ethan? Were you a huge fan of Game of Thrones?
Back in the day, yeah. Like, I mean, especially the same time in the first 4 or 5 seasons, I was really into it, and then it took a little bit weird It was always kind of, there always was an up and down. It was never just like the golden era. There's always some lags here, some problems here and there, a lot of questionable content. But once it got to, as it ramped up towards like the final season and whatnot, I was hype. I was excited about it. The cliffhanger with the dragon like blasting down the wall. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be it's gonna be epic. That song, I still have the song that played when that ice dragon breathed that massive ice flame to knock that wall down. I still have that song in my like my workout playlist. So it's amazing. So I still the hype was real for that. And of course, that final season really kind of undercut a lot of that. But at the same time, you can't deny that the 7 years beforehand were still pretty cool. So I'm going into this with a lot of trepidation, but I'm hoping for the best. I would like to have something good to hang my hat on, but you never know. So we'll see.
Fair enough. Have you guys read any of this prequels? I know this is coming from a set of books that are already. I know Otis is probably the one that reads the most out of the three of us. I don't know if you had read it yet at all.
That book I have not. I read. I went back and started reading like the actual Game of Thrones books just to see like some of the difference between that and the series. But I have not gotten to the prequels yet. I mean, if they're anything near the quality of the originals, I mean, it's going to be quality.
Fair enough. I was very much so a fan of the series. I funny enough, got eye surgery and then literally proceeding recovery for that. Binge watched that entire series within like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I caught up to everybody in that last for that last season, and yeah, I got hooked in that show really hard. I watched all that.
But what kept you from watching it earlier?
I just didn't.
Before the surgery,
I had heard about it, but I didn't even know it was that big of a thing, or I didn't really have an interest in it until I saw the hype that was being built up for that last season. I think at that point, Owen said he was watching it. He was gassing it. Everybody else I knew was gassing it. I guess I was out of the loop because I had never even heard of the show until like
that's
that
curious.
last season was announced.
For those 7, I don't know how you finished of what is 7
I think at that point I was maybe watching a lot of anime crazy at that point in time. So I really wasn't checking for any live action. That's when I was like,
but you didn't hear about it, or you didn't see like anything?
I saw nothing about it. Knew nothing about
it. That is interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Like I feel like during the first couple years of Game of Thrones, like between the memes saying like there's people watching it and then there's everyone else, and then like I don't know, I just feel like that was such a big event or meta. I guess it was the meta for a while.
I was everyone else for a long ass time. That last season, I got hooked in that show. I like literally everything up until the last 2 seasons I thought was damn near flawless for me. I do
not agree with that.
Did an amazing job to like playing with my emotions, getting me to hate characters, getting me to love certain characters. Like it did a really good job of doing all that stuff. So, but I have not read this book at all, and I know it's the prequel to showing how the Targaryens kind of came into power. I'm pretty sure, or how the Iron Throne was built. So I guess I'm interested to see that to an extent, but nothing about the series. Maybe this is some redemption. I don't know. I don't even know. The thing about prequels for me is the fact that I already know how this ends. So you got to tell the story in a really creative way. I mean, for me to really enjoy it.
Because like I think this is set like 100 years before anything in Game of Thrones. So like yeah, we know eventually like the Targaryens come into power, but we don't know anything about like how the steps of that actually happen.
Fair enough. But we know what the end result is. I think. So if the journey there is creative and interesting, then I'm like, cool. Like if I know one of the Targaryens is going to be like the final person alive. Like I don't know who it's going to be yet. Probably the king, I guess. But again, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how well. Was it J.J.R.R. Martin or
R.R. Martin?
George R.R.
George R.R. Martin. That's what it was. I said J.J. Jesus Christ.
I'm right there. Or Tolkien. J.J. Abrams, yeah, all these initials.
J.J. Reddick,
J.J. basketball player, yeah, all these initial things there.
Has he written a book yet? I don't think he has.
It's probably coming.
He will.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this series goes. I love Game of Thrones initially, so I'm really excited to see what happens.
It should be. Yeah. I mean, it'll be. The thing is, it'll be interesting to talk about. Even the worst seasons of Game of Thrones, and there's some bad seasons, are still interesting.
Off season 1.
You think season 1's a bad season?
Season 1 was pretty slow. I
was a
think it
little
really didn't
slow,
pick
but I don't
up
think it's
until the
bad.
third season. Like,
But would you say season 1's bad? It may be
I wouldn't call
slow,
it
but
bad. I wouldn't
yeah, I
call
wouldn't
it
call it
bad,
bad.
but I just would call it like
Bad.
lackluster, not really eye popping. Like
I
we
will,
had
yeah.
the really good first episode, you know, when you got to like, see the White Walkers and you saw a little bit of Winterfell and you got to saw a kid pushed out of a building. Like that was great. And then the energy level just like really like nosed up, and then it picked up slightly, and then it dropped. And then we got the Red Wedding, and then everything was like pretty good for a second, and then it dropped again. But
I don't think they were that bad to
was,
me. I think the drops because the stuff like the Red Wedding or like the high points because they were so high, it held me over. I didn't think it was that like the Red Wedding. I was tripping off the Red Wedding for like the rest of that season. I was like, yo, that really happened.
I mean, it was the season finale essentially. Like it was the Red Wedding, then one more episode. It wasn't like a whole season to trip off of. I mean, for you, since you were watching them all collectively,
right?
Like
it's a different experience,
right? But like I watched the Red Wedding, then had to wait another year for another season.
All right, that is the one thing that's interesting. I've done that now twice with like Mass Effect and this like playing something in its totality. I feel like doesn't leave you a lot of room to criticize each individual part of it. You kind of just take it all in collectively. Because I don't know if it's just me, if I'm just weird like that, or if it's like a universal thing.
Because me, I will critique anything if I'm watching it all at once. If I'm watching it weekly, either way it goes, it's still getting broken down.
They get broken down, but I don't think you would you say you would critique something as in depth though, because on an episode to episode basis, you can literally break down everything in that one episode than the next one. But if it's all one story, you have to in your mind isolate an event or a part versus it's already kind of done for you.
I mean that's how I watched a lot of my anime. Like, and I can still tell you like the core events of what happened in Naruto, and I haven't watched that over in years. But like I still watch that. Like a lot of like the first maybe like 400 episodes I watched pretty much jumbled together just because like after I figured out you could watch it all on YouTube, like I was there for hours.
That was wasn't it? Oh god.
Then I went to watching it weekly, and I still critiqued it at the same level that I critiqued it with going to weekly. So like it's no difference for me. But that's just the type of person I am.
Oh yeah, that is Otis. What about you? Are you just similar way with critiquing?
Well, I mean, as far as like critiquing, maybe not as in depth, but there's things that you notice in real time, Dev.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, regardless of whether it's sports or anime, movies, shows. Like, if something happens, if you're watching a show and a moment happens, you're like, huh, what? Regardless of how much time you have to process that, it's going to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I react to critiquing things. It's kind of like as I'm seeing them unfold, I'm like, that doesn't quite make sense, or what was that maneuver, or what the hell? In the spoilers for the last season of Game of Thrones, a part where we're in pretty much all black, and all of a sudden the Dothraki are charging on the castle, and they all the lights go out. And you're like, in real time, you're like, well, huh, what? You didn't need another day or so to process the idea of like, wait, does this make sense? You in real time, you realize something seems off here. However, with a little more time to reflect on it, you may actually have formulated a few more theories as to why things are going down the way they went down. But I think you can always you're always going to have an opinion in your mind formulating. You're always going to have that.
Fair enough. Understandably so. That's interesting. Again, that's why we have 3 different minds of thought here on the Then and Out podcast.
Right.
That you guys have any other closing remarks on the House of Dragon topic?
This one, do we know? I guess are Benioff and Wise, the 2 leads that worked on the original series, are they involved with this? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, we can find it out.
I hope not so much. Let them be away from this. Yeah, because I feel like those 2 are directly responsible for how bad the 8th season are. So just let somebody else handle.
Did they do the entire show though, or they just did the
entire
show?
I'm like, as long as they got
but the thing is, like they had the books to go off for the first 4 or 5 seasons, and those 4 or 5 seasons were the stronger ones in my personal opinion.
Right.
And then you got a whole season of Arya at the whatever. Where was she? What was that place with the faceless man?
The assassin
that shit was
thing.
Fucking stupid. I'm sorry. Like, yes, the end result was good because she became pretty dope. but like the process of her being there was tedious and annoying.
It was weird. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. That one was a weird part.
It's interesting. So that's what I wanted to get into. I know we have other topics to discuss here today,
Yeah,
but like I like the idea that how much of a grace period do you give an artist? Like you said, they gave us essentially if there's 7 seasons and we had pretty much people collectively think that we got about 4 good ones, or at least there's 4 that are based off of source material. That's more than half that are at least decent enough to watch, and then 3 could say they're bad, or 2 essentially they're really bad. It's interesting. It's where do you draw the line as far as like these creators did more good than harm?
I mean, go ahead.
I mean, I would just say like I can't say like like these parts are good or these parts are bad. I kind of looking at it collectively, like the entire ride, and if the ending taste is bad, like then it kind of sometimes feels like the whole thing is bad. But I can still go back and see like, okay, these were good moments, but you still fucked it up. Like you still fucked it up.
I think that's what it is. I think this is something that I learned forever ago in entertainment and writing. Everything is that as long as you nail it, it's how you finish. It's all about how you finish. Because even if you start off kind of rocky or whatnot, people will be along with you for the end. Another show we all know is Supernatural. A lot of fans weren't on board with Supernatural the first couple seasons or whatnot, but it found its footing later on. And I know the ending is kind of crazy, but it's still the idea is that as you are if you're able to catch them on later, they'll forgive you they'll forgive your transgressions much more earlier. However, if you go the other way around, if you have an amazing entree and a great appetizer and you have a horrible dessert or whatnot, people will kind of resent you forever. And it's just funny to think about that.
I am that person. I am for sure that person.
See, I'm a lot more forgiving due to the fact that like when it comes to a series, especially series that are long running, because I honestly don't really. It's long running series are kind of bittersweet for me. I don't really like them, but I like the more content for a series I enjoy. But I say all that to say, when it comes to writing, I can't think of a lot of series that were amazing from start to finish. Like there's usually some kind of drop off or a bad fuck up somewhere, because just the more content you have, the more room for error you have. So unless you're doing your story in like an incredibly like short format, like if it's an anime, maybe like a 10 episode 1 season thing where it's just one story told, or if it's like a 1 hour movie that's a one-off movie with no second story, there's not a lot of room for error there.
Right.
So when it comes to something like Game of Thrones, with the fact that thing was such as big of a cultural phenomenon as it was, and people loved it to that degree up until that last season, I'm like, I give them a pass for it. Honestly, I'm just like, although the ending I agree with you with the ending. Like if you don't get the ending right for any series, I feel like it can significantly decrease the value of not even value, but just the overall score of a show.
I agree with the value.
Decreasing the value of the show. I still feel like I give you a lot of, especially like you just talked about. If more than half of a long ass series is good, I'll give you if more than half of it is great and then the rest of it is mediocre and then that one season is terrible, I think they did good for what they were doing for a 7-season series. You did good, and then especially with everybody points to the key reason why it flopped so bad is just they read out of books. I'm pretty sure aren't these in this set of books like done already? Did he have this done?
No, they're still not done. I don't even know if he's done No, so it's supposed to be 7 books. I think he has a 5th one even come out yet. I don't
think the 5th one has not dropped. And I don't think, honestly, after the way the series went, I don't think he has an interest in finishing it anymore.
When did he start the series?
He started it in the 90s because they were going to do like a movie or movies about it instead, like a Song of Ice and Fire. And he was like, it doesn't quite work. It's too much stuff to put into a movie or whatnot. And so then years later, they approached him to do like a show instead. So yeah, I think it's either the late 90s or early 2000s when he first wrote the first book. But yeah, it took him a while.
I've heard of writer's block for over 20 years. You haven't finished a series yet?
Cough, Berserk. Cough, Hunter x Hunter.
But the thing is with Berserk and Hunter x Hunter, well, Berserk, I think Hunter x Hunter is kind of done now. But for that Berserk though, Kentaro Miura, like he clearly like was drawing so much. Like he was working crazy hours.
Yeah.
With George R.R. Martin, everyone gets writer's block, of course, but you're not illustrating things and having that kind of stuff to deal with. One thing I want to mention real quick though is just I kind of see. I think one thing that Otis is approaching it from too is the idea of it's 7 years of build up towards something.
Mm-hmm.
This is the crescendo. This is what we're going towards. So we want all of the past 7 years we've been invested in this series to pay off. And if it doesn't pay off, you feel scorned. You feel in a way like this is what was the point of this? But the other side of that is that if you were in a relationship with somebody for 7 years and the first 6 years were great, and then you have a really messy breakup, you can't say that those first 6 years weren't necessarily worth it or weren't good. That's kind of how I see things too. So I'm kind of in between, where you guys fall. I can understand why you could be upset about the ending, but at the same time, I can appreciate what we had.
My issue, this specifically for Game of Thrones, not all endings, but specifically for Game of Thrones. The first episode of that is called Winter is Coming. That is the first episode of Game of Thrones, implying the impact that the White Walkers have on the series.
Right.
What impact did the White Walkers have on the series by the end?
None, really. I mean, it's virtually none. It's surprising.
That was, I was like, that's it. That's it. We had all that build up for that.
Like every promo they did for those years, that 10-year span that they have been running that show, because they skipped years in between. And don't forget that, Charlie. Like they definitely skipped a couple years in between some of those seasons. Every promo was talking about winter is coming. Winter is coming. You saw the T-shirts, the hoodies, all of that merch. Winter is coming. Where the fuck was the winter? It lasted the episode.
Yeah, it would not even a whole episode. It was it is a weird the dismount was so sloppy that it's like, it's questionable. I really do think what happened is essentially because these creators, Benioff and Wise, they were involved with this project for so long, and they had their their fingers in Star Wars stuff coming up later on. Back in the day, they got fired from that, but they were clearly had their eyes on other aspirations, and it seemed like they just kind of just started half-assing what they were doing. And I can't put all the blame on those two guys, but as far as it did seem like the showrunners themselves just weren't as invested in the show.
They clearly weren't invested because HBO gave them the opportunity to say like, hey, we can extend this show 2 more seasons. Here's the money for it. It's like, no, we're gonna end it here. We don't need season 10. We're gonna end it here. Deuces.
We'll give you whatever you guys want, and they just weren't interested, and that happens. But the thing is, I get it, where you lose the zeal for something that you're working on for so long. Typically, what would happen is you bring in somebody else, another showrunner, other directors wanted to take over for it, but they didn't. I guess they didn't want that to happen or whatever. But yeah.
That's to get back in your analogy you brought up earlier as far as the relationship thing too. One thing I find interesting, I guess this thing here, when you speak about a relationship too, where you had all those good years in the messy breakup, 9 times out of 10, you're going back to that relationship at some point in time. Like people will go back and forth. Like you go back to that ex a couple times before you're completely done with them.
It's not a clean break.
So I feel like we'll kind of see that we'll kind of see a good representation of that show and how well it did in its time, with how many people I guess go back to see this prequel and how many people care about it.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Yeah.
Moving on to the next topic, which is the reason why we have the game footage we have. Apparently, staying with the theme of prequels, HBO is making an effort to create a prequel for the It movie, for Pennywise the Clown. I myself am a fan of the first one. I love the first one with a passion. The first movie, the first remake. I saw the original.
Not
Tim Curry one. I've seen that one. It was cool for me. But the Bill Skarsgård one that came out
2018.
Yes.
Is that what it was? 2018?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
I love that. I love Bill Skarsgård as that character. The second one kind of was kind of fell short for me.
A little short, yeah.
But a prequel, I don't know how far of a prequel this is going to be. If it's going to be like the beginnings of Derry, Maine, or if this is going to be like the beginnings of that weird. You guys know the backstory of you read the book?
Nope.
Well, I know some of the lore. It's like 27-year cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
so it would have to be.
The weird thing is there's like a creation myth of like there's a world universe turtle or whatever.
Oh yeah, the whole thing is on top of. Yeah, it's like the arch nemesis of the clown spider is this turtle.
I don't know if they're gonna go that far as a prequel to the beginning.
Lord, I hope they don't.
That'd be too much.
It would be interesting. I would love to see, like, because we see all the dark imagery from the first one when it comes to seeing old Derry, Maine, and how that kind of went about. I'd love to see that series. I'm off anything horror. I love to see horror, especially if it's
you do love some horror.
If it feels good in any remarks, I need to see it done. Because we don't have that many super high quality or good horror content. As far as I'm aware of, there's probably a lot more indie content that I'm just not aware of that I need to do the due diligence to go look into. But as far as mainstream horror content, there's not a lot of it out.
They're not producing as much of it. Yeah, you pretty much have to go a little indie or go back to
that's because stuff. They had like a good 10, 15 years of making horrible popcorn movies, and nobody wants to fund those anymore because they're not making money.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's funny about horror too is how back in the glory days of horror, whenever the 80s or 90s or stuff like that, and slasher films, like they were relatively cheap to make, and because they had audiences that came out for them consistently, they didn't have to make that much money to make it turn a profit. Also, they didn't have to be that good either. So it kind of had a weird trend of poorly made movies that people just came out and supported that made enough money to keep them afloat. And then recently, they kind of, like you said, Otis, they kind of because they didn't know how to make good horror movies. It's like they don't know how to. They kind of lost the rhythm in a sense.
I feel as though that back then they weren't really focused on making good movies as much as making experiences. I feel like horror movies like the 80s and the 90s were more so based around, hey, bring your girl or da, like kind of what they are now. Like you go to with a date or whatever. You don't really go
popcorn movies.
Popcorn movies.
Yeah, essentially. And I don't think it's been until there are obviously some outliers from those time periods where there are movies that are really revolutionary that push the genre forward and how they went about stuff, like Texas Chainsaw. At least the first Texas Chainsaw. When you get into the later ones, it's kind of really weird and wonky, which is usually with most horror franchises anyway.
Talking about you, Trey Songz.
You say Trey Songz?
Yeah.
The Trey Songz is in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for about 15 seconds.
It was like
what? Really?
Using it for a good like 15, 20 minutes. It was like a remake.
Yeah.
Did they know he's an actor?
Chris Brown was in Stumpy Yard. Like he died around the same marker.
Yeah. Doesn't Chris Brown actually get killed in Stumpy Yard? I think they got shot right.
Yeah. So does Trey Songz.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. All right.
Dies in the worst way.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that was okay.
But Stomp the Yard or
it was pretty bad.
The Texas Chainsaw remake. It was all right.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Stomp the Yard. I mean, I don't rush that. Anyway, me back on topic. Jesus Christ. Damn. I had a whole point, and this nigga Otis just stomped the yard.
You did. My
fucked me up with the trade. Yeah. Where was I even at? Jesus Christ.
No, I think you were saying
like my sneak disses are so efficient that I'll take away from the actual point that we were going to.
Oh yeah. Movies in the genre that revolutionized the franchise. We had a lot of those that pushed it forward. Yeah. And I feel like we have a lot more of those now. I feel like now a lot more creatives are taking helm of the franchise and they're experimenting with different things to try to push it forward. But because people are kind of worn out with the genre because of the 80s and the 90s, I feel like people don't really always give it its just due or its just chance, to me personally. But
it depends on how innovative it is, though. I mean, obviously Jordan Peele has done some. Yeah. People loved Get Out. It's a different kind of horror movie. It's more of a psychological.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think that's the main reason why people gave that a chance, because it was such a like pro-black social thing. That's just like, all right, it's pro-black. We're gonna at least black people gave it a chance.
But also it's a different, because I mean obviously it got an Oscar for best screenplay, so it wasn't just the black community, but it was a different kind of horror. I think that's what same thing is. I know Charlie and I are fans of Hereditary. Otis not so much, but it resolved. It did.
It's one of the better movies.
I know you liked it, but the idea is that it was a different kind of horror. It wasn't just the same slasher nonsense gore fest that we've seen before. It actually had or gore porn, whatever, like Saw or whatnot. It was actually something different that people were able to get into.
I feel like atmospheric horror is going to be pushed for the near future. I feel like a lot more movies are kind of going that way. Because it's just, I feel like it's a better way to go about the genre in general, because you're building an atmosphere and you can make me be on edge for a lot longer than the 15 seconds until a jump scare happens.
Right,
with
exactly.
Older movies like that.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, Charlie. What was it? And Otis, I'm not sure if you liked it, the films, the recent ones. What was it about it that you liked that resonated so well with you?
For me, with it, 90% of it was Bill Skarsgård. I feel like Bill Skarsgård played that character so well, even down to the face. I don't know if you guys have seen. I forget what talk show it was on where he like made the face
Yeah, Jimmy
outside
Kimmel.
of the makeup, and 90% of that face is just him. Like he just made he's creepy and weird. He like his mannerisms and things like that. I think he plays that character perfectly. It made like
and even his eyes, he's able to move like his eyes in different directions, not just cross-eyed, but like have him go from like right, have him go like both from one going right, one going left, opposite ways too.
I remember like talking with Alan Maxon. He talked about being a creature actor. I think he just does well at being a creature actor. Just like his mannerisms, the way he moves, the way he just does things on screen is really creeping me out. As well as with the atmosphere, I feel like the CGI, at least in that first movie, was well done and well placed. Like scene that stands out to me in particular was like the garage scene where like it like blew up or whatever. It came out of the like they were watching something on
the movie
projector. Yeah. And he came out. I'm like, oh damn, that was really well placed and well done. The jump scares didn't feel cheap, and the atmospheric core was great, and it was dope. I loved everything about that movie in particular. But again,
I mean, it's funny. It's kind of it. So it won, and Stranger Things season 1 kind of reminded me of each other.
Right. I agree.
In the idea, and they're even set in similar time periods. It's the idea of the shattered innocence, like children, young children, having to deal with something that's so far beyond them, and seeing them, you are immediately endeared to them, and you want them to win, and seeing them essentially overcome odds, insane odds, to beat a horrific, malevolent creature. I think that was a big appeal for me.
Right, and then the thing with children in horror, it sounds really weird. I love children in horror because it gives a sense of helplessness that everybody can sympathize with, because you were children that were scared of the dark at one point or had a boogeyman or something like that. So you empathize with that sense of helplessness that most children in horror like feel, especially with something like it, where he eats children. It's amazing, and the way he torments the children. But really, what the thing I like about the character the most is what you kind of you get a similar feel with Freddy Krueger, in the sense that he likes to terrorize the children to make them taste better. So it makes it kind of, it's kind of, I guess, a cheap way to make it make sense of why like he'll chase a kid and let him go. Like he'll catch the bait and then let it go because it tastes better to him when you're the most terrified.
Exactly. It's funny you brought up Freddy Krueger, because I mean it's been already reported on this show. I told those about numerous times how Freddy Krueger is the one that messed me up. We all have our things that when we're younger kind of broke our brains. Freddy was it for me.
Funny enough, the 2011 Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street fucked me up. Bad.
Jackie Earl
Haley. He was cool to me. Like he didn't scare me. Like I thought it was like, okay, Rorschach. Oh,
he was a good.
Get them bodies, catch them bodies, Rorschach. That's what I was.
He was a good character, I thought. Yeah, Freddy became Robert Englund's Freddy kind of became more of a caricature, and he was almost from the start. He was kind of like having weird, kind of fun, tongue-in-cheek fun.
Yeah.
But Jackie Earl Haley, he was a tormented soul that torments souls.
Yeah,
I feel like that.
Robert Englund Freddy, he became an icon.
He became an icon, super icon. But the thing about in Nightmare on Elm Street 1, the kids, quote unquote kids, are still teenagers, and oftentimes they were actually, they cast people in their 20s, so it's a different feeling. And also the rules as far as horror goes, where if you have sex or if you do this or that, these things happen to you. You didn't feel quite as bad. You still didn't feel happy for them, but you didn't feel as bad when they went down. Kids in like Stranger Things season 1 or It or even spoiler for Hereditary, what happens to that young girl, is like you can feel bad because it's innocence lost. It's not. It's not fair to them. It's just not fair in a sense.
Exactly. And yeah, with Freddy, that Jackie Earl Haley one really got me. I mean, besides the fact that he was an actual pedophile, they confirmed that.
They confirmed. They confirmed.
Yeah, at least with that version of him, like his voice, like that voice, really. Because I think up until that point, I hadn't seen the watching movies beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't familiar with Jackie Earl Haley at all. Besides that movie. That voice messed me up. I thought the CG / prosthetic they did on Freddy was really good as far as him being a burn victim. And again, the atmosphere, they did a good job of like weaving in between consciousness and being awake. And they did that, I feel like, very good with that movie. I don't know like that 2011 Nightmare and Friday the 13th, I feel like were pretty underrated, good in their own in their own right. Which I didn't get a sequel, you know. But yeah,
I'm curious if those
they
kinds
came
of
at a bad time because like that was like right there when people were just like flat out tired of horror movies,
right?
Like, and they didn't get the reception that they wanted to get. So it was like, okay, we're not going to put this much effort into these horror movies anymore. We're just going to stick to the popcorn flicks that get us a quick buck.
Right.
Yeah, because that was the thing too. Those were like essentially bigger budget horror movies too. They weren't just like, I mean, back in the day, Halloween was made for under $1 million, and then the original Friday the 13th was made like in 2 weeks or some shit. So it's like these to have the remakes though, they put effort into them. They actually had big budget, big investments. Studios were involved,
and they did research with that. Like that Friday movie, like the one scene where he's killing the guy in prison, he's already killed him. He was like, well, you're dead now, but you have a certain, I don't know how accurate that was, but if it's real, that's phenomenal writing. They're like, hey, well, you have a certain amount of time, your consciousness and your brain works for a certain amount of time after you die. So for that whole amount of time, I want to torture the hell out of you for that whole time. And I was like, damn, that's terrifying. I'm just like, I'm already dead, but you're going to keep fucking, oh man. So stuff like that, I'm like, damn, that was immaculate writing. It was really well placed. The acting, it's horror movie. I feel like it was better than a lot of horror movies I've seen, but it was still good for what it was. I think the writing really made that well, and really well written horror movies are exceptionally done.
Those are all good points you made because one, you brought up the writing, and oftentimes horror movies don't necessarily have the most innovative writing, but if you have good writing, it's like that's great
writing,
or you have actually put in deliberate writing. Or two, you mentioned the acting. I mean, back in the day, horror movies were just based on the idea of like, can you scream really loud, Jamie Lee Curtis? That's all that matters. So it's actually having those things. Yeah.
It was I love that series with passion. Not the whole series, but that movie in particular. I watched a couple of the older Robert Englund stuff. Man. I thought they were cool, but they didn't really intimidate me the same way as Jackie Earle Haley ones. They weren't as intense. They were more comedic.
It's different now. I mean, the way it is in my brain is the same way that The Exorcist is in Otis's brain. As far as like it's just we can recognize years later that it's not nearly as terrifying on a cerebral level, but it's still because it hit us in our hearts when we're younger. It doesn't matter.
That messed me up.
I can't say that about The Exorcist. Like The Exorcist doesn't get less scary. Honestly, the more for me. The more intelligent you are, the more scary that shit gets because you watch that. It was like they made this 40 years ago, and this is 50 still creepy to me. Like this is still like, why is she crawling like that? That is still not okay for me. That is not an okay point. And honestly, I need more horror movies to affect me that way. Like, I need you to have an effect on me. Like, be horrific, cause trauma, like, be sinister. 1, not 2.
Oh yeah. Because we both like Sinister.
That first one was, boy.
Yeah,
man,
that was great. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, like that is my honestly my requirement to enjoy a horror movie at this point. Like, create an experience that I'm going to remember negatively, but not because it's bad, because like this has fucked me up. Like, how it
affects you. Yeah. There was that, and also I know y'all both saw The Conjuring 1. It wasn't. It's not. I don't think it's as good as some other like Exorcist or whatnot, but it still had. It was still a very solid movie. It had very solid performances from Pat Wilson and Vera Farmiga and whatnot. And it was and the idea too that these are real people that hunted down real monsters and that kind of stuff. So it's actually it was innovative enough that it worked. It worked well, I thought.
Quick side tangent on that series. I feel like at that point it needs to be like an HBO series.
Because I thought they were trying to do that.
Whenever Patrick Wilson and Farmiga are in them, they're good to me. Whenever they branch out and do like the Nun or the Annabelle Comes Home bullshit, like whenever they don't have those two in there, I feel like it's just not as good. Like their dynamic and their chemistry on screen when it comes to horror, and like especially with a horror where they're always putting themselves in danger and worried about each other, I think it's amazing. So whenever they're like all the best ones are when they're in it. So if you do a series where they're just going case to case basis, I feel like that'd be fire. Especially if you could have some kind of continuity in it where like you saw the Nun was like stalking him. They got certain spirits pissed off at him.
Yeah,
whatever.
Like a reoccurring relationship with these different spirits. Like
right.
I think that would be cool. Now I also agree with you. I want to correct what you were saying though, Charlie. You said the ones with Formiga, what's his name? You said
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson. I'm sorry. They're the better ones. I would argue that those are the only good ones. If those two aren't in them, they aren't worth watching. The Nun is the highest budget horror movie that I've seen in a while, and it's still one of the worst movies I've seen in my entire life.
That was the highest promo. I think all that went into the promotion, bro. I swear
it was coming right off the momentum of the I think the second one. And people were like, "Oh, so this is gonna be fire!" And the promotional work did look.
They were saying this is so scary, we can't show you scenes from it.
Oh yeah, bro.
And honestly, we should have took that as a warning. It's like, wait, you can't show me scenes.
The darkest chapter in the Conjuring universe.
Yeah.
And
it's so scary we can't advertise for it.
I paid money to go see that movie, and when I tell you, I have never wanted to track down somebody that wrote something so bad. It was just like, what the fuck is this?
And what makes it even worse is that we've seen Valak in the other movies, and she was intimidating.
Yes.
Yeah, in part 2.
Why is she in the sewer? Why would you ever have a ghost in a sewer? I'm just saying, like,
why is that church built like that? And then she doesn't do anything. In other words, like she just behind you all the time. Just behind you yelling.
They can't have the same writers. They can't be. Yeah, they can't be the same writers.
Probably James Wan doesn't finish shit. It doesn't finish anything.
So James Wan, we have to get into Malignant. We'll hit Malignant another time, I guess. But that dude, yeah.
I never wanted to fight somebody so bad because you'll start. He always starts
James
these.
Wan did Malignant.
He started the Conjuring unit.
I think he wrote. He
did.
He was involved with.
He directed. I don't know if he wrote.
I see why he don't finish things then, because if he chose to do that, like that was a choice to make that movie.
But the crazy thing is,
it's all choice.
He has multiple franchises at this point that he'll start, and the first movie out of those franchises are phenomenal.
Yeah,
you look at the first Saw movie, the first Conjuring movie, like they're phenomenal. But then the
first Fast that he directed.
Yeah,
I think it's 5 that he did.
Yeah, because it's on Saw.
No, Fast and Furious 5.
Did he direct? He did direct those, didn't he?
Yeah, he did 1 or 2 of them. Yeah.
Jesus, like he'll start a series and then be like, "All right, I'm gonna start something new," and then let somebody else handle it, and then they just go down the drain. Right. And if you don't know that he's not directing it, you're expecting that same James Wan quality, and then it's just.
Did he also do Archive 81?
Did he? I don't know if he directed that or if he was. I think he was involved with it, but I don't know if he directed it.
Because that whole series felt like a love piece of James Wan, just in a bad way.
Oh, okay.
It really did.
I still need to finish that. I need to finish that off.
It's
not in a good way, though. Not in a good way, because actually,
okay.
I didn't finish. I watched like the first 3 episodes and
exactly. You didn't finish.
I gotta finish
because I think Dev, you were the one that was trying to champion that show the most.
Yeah, I ran into depression and didn't finish it.
Okay, that's okay. But
don't finish it. Trust me.
Shout out to Small Screen because I just recently edited a video for them in which they talked about how that show.
I was on the comments in that too.
It's not getting a second season.
No, it's not getting a second season at all.
They didn't bring enough money for it. So they said they didn't bring enough attention into.
It wasn't good enough to continue.
It wasn't. It was a rough slog. Well, here's what's interesting about it though is that I was and we were talking about having black voices in horror. I was like yo, we had to have our boy as the lead character in this horror movie, this horror series. I was like, that's awesome. And it's like damn, and that it wasn't good. And I was like, come on, man, I was.
You talking about again? What was this?
Archive 81.
Archive 81. The lead character is because it's mainly just him. A lot of the time, it's just him running around.
I wanted him to be good so bad, but that nigga was boring. Boring.
Yeah, it's very boring. That's like almost like it's like that's the point is for it to be boring. It's like what is this? What is this?
Yeah, I will say. Oh, shout out to Bakertown. Yeah, Malignant was bad. We all kind of had a unanimous opinion.
The thing about Malignant is it is entertaining how bad it is. It's like you can 100% watch it with a group. That'd be amazing for us to watch it together on edibles or whatnot. And it is just so over the top bad that you will laugh.
I will say it's a fun movie. Like that action scene in it is fun. Yeah, some of the scenes when they try to be like intimidating is funny. I look at that shit like Scary Movie, almost like when they're trying to be intimidating, but it's just
exactly
it's funny. Which I'd probably watch that again at some point. If I'm watching it with a group, I'd watch it again.
Right, it's a fun crowd movie.
If you want to see me talk shit to a completely different level, we can watch that. Other than that, then I'm not gonna watch that.
That's what it'd be for. It'd be very akin to watching Scorpions or not Scorpions Revenge. What was the other Mortal Kombat one that we watched together?
Oh God, it was the sequel to that. It was Mortal Kombat Legends.
Legends or something.
We gotta we gotta do one of those videos. I want to try to do a
I was
like you saw that video I sent you last night. Yeah, it'd be dope to first do another video.
Right?
Like
yeah, something like that. Because there was like 5 of us that watched that Mortal Kombat movie. And it was. I think the best part was we knew it was bad from I think minute 3. You were like, oh no, and there was another 90 minutes of that shit.
It's so funny because we all had the same realization at the same time. The same time.
There's no like
for anybody that doesn't watch us on a regular basis, we rarely ever like come to the same conclusion at the same exact time. We have to either warm up to it or somebody gets convinced. But for that movie, we all saw, oh, this is terrible at the same moment.
Exact thing. It was like.
It's like Warner Brothers, you did it again, huh?
You got us because we were hyped. It was a bunch of us there. We were hyped for it. We were excited about it. We had just watched it.
That first one was fire. We all seen that first one.
It's still great. Scorpion's Revenge is still great. Yeah.
As a palate cleanser, let's get into the next topic to kind of cleanse our palates. I don't know how important this series was to you guys. You guys were probably a little bit older when this came out, but apparently the grapevine says, according to Punk Beast, shout out to Punk Beast, their website. My boy James runs that. They get a lot of great insider scoop information. So if you guys want to see more articles in regards to new rumors and things that have been dropped and that are accurate and not clickbait, go check out Punk Beast. Twitter, website, all that stuff. But according, Disney Plus is developing a Finding Nemo TV series.
What?
Mm-hmm. Is Ellen DeGeneres going to be in it?
Who?
Ellen DeGeneres?
I mean, probably. I don't know if you have. You really have. Can you have Nemo without Dory now? I don't really know if you can have a series without Dory in it. At least a Nemo series. That'd be kind of messed up.
Ellen's kind of.
I think they may want to try to find a way.
Yeah, she's kind of on the outs.
She's pretty heavily canceled right now.
Yeah. Isn't there a show still going?
No, her show is actually. That's the thing. Her show. Her show is literally ending.
I know she said it was ending, but I thought it's like still going though, right? I don't know if it finished all the way.
It's in this final season. I'm not sure when it officially runs off the air.
I'm interested to see what the ratings are.
She literally got canceled to the point where she actually was. Her show was canceled.
She's like, I'm done. Fuck this shit.
It wasn't by her choice.
Yeah. That's how old were you guys when Finding Nemo came out?
I don't remember, but I mean,
no, I was young.
I really enjoyed Finding Nemo. Like Crash was super dope to me. The turtle, like
yeah. He's
great. Well, of course, he seemed high all the damn time. That's why you liked him.
Yeah, I mean, he is high.
That was before I started smoking, so I just thought he was just cool. Okay,
it's something about you, man. I don't know what it is.
I want to hang out with you and eat chips.
Oh my!
It was like whoa! It was like whoa! It was like.
I love that.
Shark
movie is great.
Finding Nemo was actually my shit. Finding Dory, I still haven't seen to this day though. I don't want to watch it.
I thought Finding Nemo was a Pixar series. I thought that was a Pixar movie, or is that for real?
Yeah, they're both Pixar.
Disney Pixar, yeah.
Pixar.
Oh, so Disney owns Pixar.
Yeah.
Well, no, they partnered up. They're not. Disney does not own Pixar. But
yeah. I mean, they made a lot of most of the Disney Pixar movies are like Disney movies.
So
like, I don't think has Pixar ever made a non-Disney movie before?
I have no clue.
Pixar is its own studio.
Yeah. So is this the animation studio?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's its own.
Okay. So that makes sense.
They partner up to do lots of things. You'll see the opening credits. It always says Pixar and Disney. It never just says Disney.
Has Pixar missed yet? Have they missed?
Yeah, they've had some misfires. People they say like Cars 2 or
Cars.
the Cars.
Yeah, the one with Mater's a spy.
Or Good Dinosaur.
I haven't seen that one.
Exactly. You haven't sone it. Yeah, the one. What was the one? Onward. Onward wasn't bad, but it didn't hit as much. You know, they had a one that came out recently. The one with the red panda. I think it's called Seeing Red.
I heard that was good though.
Yeah, I heard it's pretty good, but as far as making his money or turning heads, it's not as on the. So it's not, so they're still a quality studio, but they're not always like burning the barn down necessarily.
Their highs are high.
I mean,
Incredibles.
Wall-E is one of the greatest movies of all time to me.
Wall-E's great. I love Wall-E. You said Nemo's great. Incredibles, like you said before, Incredibles is great.
These are all things that have been milked for like the last 10 or 2 decades.
Cars to that list.
Yeah,
I'll fight you over that one. Cars is fire.
But Cars makes serious bank. Like you said, Dev, Cars is actually still at the park, at the Disney parks. Cars makes a lot of money. Kids love Cars.
That was fire.
Lightning McQueen is an icon for some reason.
Lightning McQueen, that merch moves.
No, we gonna fight over that. Cars is fire. I don't care what you say about that one, Otis. That was life could be sweet. Well, I fight over that. Anyway,
I don't even know what the fuck you were just saying right there. That was
a song.
That was strange.
A song from the movie that was really fucking good.
Real quick. Austin Kearns is saying how a miniseries. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. You finish it. My bad. Finish it up.
No, all I was to say was that Austin Kearns said that a miniseries would make more sense. I believe Austin's referring to. You think it's it, or I think it's is it it or
He said the creature's history, so I'm assuming it's it.
Yeah. Because Austin made a couple of comments here. I agree. Actually, with Austin, I think that if we were to do a Pennywise or even just in the universe of this type of series, a miniseries is a better way to go. Miniseries have been, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but miniseries have been hitting it more so. We're in the golden age of TV more so than movies, essentially. So I
really agree. Not you, DMZ, though. But yeah, I mostly definitely agree.
DMZ. I actually tried watching that. I was like, oh no, this is bad.
Yes.
Love Rosario Dawson, though.
Yeah,
again, no beef toward Rosario. She's always great.
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know. I don't really care either way when it comes to that, as long as they're not trying to get in multiple different generations of the story. Like if you're just focusing on the establishment of Derry, Maine, which they talked about in that first movies, then I'm cool. Yes. If they try to go from there and jump around to like another age or no, just tell us one story. Other people and leave it at that.
Yes. So the thing about it too is, would you want it to have another series of kids that Pennywise was essentially torturing, or would you want it to be adults? I think it works better if it's children again.
Well, he doesn't stalk the adults because he mind controls the adults.
Right. He puts a veil over them. So yeah, it'd be if you kind of create that magic again with kids dealing with him, that'd be fun. I think.
Yeah, I think the only exception with the adult thing was just because the kids beat him beforehand. That's why he was stalking him.
Right. Yeah, he had a personal grudge against them. Yeah.
Right. Moving into our last topic of the day. This is going to be kind of interesting because it's kind of connects with something that's ongoing now. Moonlight's writer Sabir Pirzada is on board for a Marvel Nova movie. So I don't know if it's going to be a movie or a show, but I know there's a Nova project coming out, and the writer of Moon Knight, he's getting banged. I'm pretty sure there's another series we talked about that he's going to write or he's going to do, and I forgot which one it was. We talked about it on one of our live shows before.
It's in the Marvel unive, or is it?
I don't know if it's probably in the Marvel, but
or it's in a House of Mouse, probably. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, but people have faith in him. I mean, I don't think I probably have seen him. So far, the way Moon Knight's looking at that first episode, I'm excited to see what he does with Nova. Funny enough, my first introduction to that character was Ultimate Spider-Man series with Drake.
Oh, that's
Drake
Bell?
I think Drake Bell plays Spider-Man.
Different version of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that character a lot. I thought it was cool. I thought his powers were interesting. The Nova Corps was like a good concept. That's why I was waiting whenever they did Guardians and I saw that they had the Nova Corps there. I'm like, where are the dudes in the helmet shooting laser beams out of their hands? What's going on with that? Why is that not
right
yet?
Yeah. What's funny about Nova? I was introduced to Nova back in the day through Green Lantern because someone said, "Hey, the Nova Corps is basically the same thing as the Marvel's version of the Green Lantern Corps." I was like, "Really? Okay." And I don't. It's not necessarily like that, but it's just the idea of an intergalactic space force.
It's their response to it, essentially. That's
it's their response to it.
Kind of sort of. Maybe just because I enjoyed. I think the Green Lantern mythos was a little bit in depth.
It is.
And deep.
It is more in depth.
Yeah.
I agree. It's not.
There's got to be a better analogy.
No, this is sure the Nova Corps.
That was the close. Yeah. It was the closest I could get to it. But that was just my introduction to it. But I'm on board for that. And you brought up Moon Knight real quick. I know we haven't talked about Moon Knight at all, but if the guy who handled that show, wrote that show, is doing something else, I'm on board. I've only seen one episode, but I enjoyed it. So
I don't know if he's directing it, but the writing, I'm so happy. I don't know what it is with Marvel right now, but they are on fire when it comes to getting great writers. Because some of their shows recently have been shows and movies No Way Home. They just been putting out, as far as just putting out good content.
Yeah.
They've been putting out good entertainment.
Yes.
Solid content. Above average content for sure.
Enjoyable content.
Yeah.
Enjoyable
fun content.
Fun, yeah, fun. There's nothing wrong with fun content. Real quick. Austin does say that, ironically enough, that in the book, Pennywise does go after adults too. So I'm not sure what all could be involved. Just real quick note.
Yeah, that's I didn't read the book itself.
Neither did I.
Which makes sense with the sequel. It makes a lot more sense. Glad they didn't have the actual ending of the book in the second movie.
They could not.
Yeah.
You mean that part with the whole?
Yep.
Wait.
Yep.
Yeah. They could not. That's. I mean, that's. I
that would have been.
I know. There are things that Stephen King has done and written that it's like, okay, you were clearly on drugs or you were something's going on. I don't know what that was.
He was sexually repressed. What that was.
I don't know.
I look at him kind of sideways after that. I'm like, really, bro? That's what you wrote in there.
That's the one that makes you look at him. Okay.
I mean, is there anything else more egregious than that you can think of? Then it's just like.
Read some of those still. Yeah, read some of those books.
I don't know, bro.
Fair, you've read more than me.
I'm not gonna say him because I don't want to get his kicked off.
No. But the thing is, we all know we're talking about. The thing is that I think the way he tried to describe it ultimately was that it was meant to be of amongst them. It was something that was important to them to do with each other. But
they couldn't go play catch in the park or picnic or shit.
No, I know.
They're 11.
They're
11.
They're literally stated to be before middle school, something like that. Around age. So it's
Christ. Oh man.
Anyway, we have to, and again, as in true then and now fashion, we end on something like that. So
right. Before we leave, I'm trying to make it a point to have some a creepy corner, I guess, where either I bring up a scary story or just something, or either we'll make this my either or because I couldn't find one. I forgot I was up making a project. But I guess I'll steal your thing. I gotta upload that into OBS too, so we can start rolling out. But the either or of today, fellas, would you rather or either be for the rest of your life you're running this individual? These individuals are hunting you until the day you are in the ground. Either Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers.
Freddy.
Michael Myers. What are you talking about?
You must not have to sleep.
That's the thing. With Freddy, you can't ever sleep. You can never sleep.
I mean, Freddy Krueger has never been intimidating to me. Not ever. Not once I watch a horror Freddy movie and I'm just like, oh God, it's a guy with knives for fingers. Silver Swizzard hands.
The movie don't mean shit. He's real life now hunting your ass down in actual life.
The thing is with Freddy, if you are not afraid of him, he can't hurt you.
How absolute is that? I feel like he still has some power.
Yeah, he has power over you. You can fight back like in the Dream Warriors, but he was still murdering people with superpowers.
Yeah,
right, in the Dream Warriors.
If he gets me. But like, I'm not fighting Michael Myers. Like, I'm not going to try that.
He was fought though. I mean, think about this. His daughter, well, not his daughters. I'm sorry. His sisters and family have beaten him like in the real world. Oh shit, they
have plot armor.
Nigga,
if they were anybody else in that series,
if motherfucking Busta Rhymes can piece him up, I'm fighting this nigga. I'm giving him hands. I'm sorry.
H2O, right? And he got sliced in half and got
he lived. He lived
because of plot armor because he put in his contract that he can't die in the movie.
Is that what he did? Busta Rhymes did?
That's how everybody's doing that. Boy, him, The Rock, was it Vin Diesel?
But they can't even get hurt. That's under
armor. Like, as horrible as this Halloween Kills movie was, did you see how he was killing people? I don't want that smoke. He was like Goku. That was another thing. And here's another thing to back up my belief though. Austin also said Michael Myers.
Right.
Well, Dev, what would you say though?
I'm going Mike just for the fact I can fly to another country, and I got a good while before he figures out how to get on the plane and come to another country where I'm at.
I can't imagine Mike even knows how to
fly.
Yeah.
He went from like an 8-year-old to a mental hospital.
He gonna swim. He would
swim.
I got plenty of time.
He would swim.
I got plenty of time. I can take a nap.
I think they haven't kind of explored in the lore that Mike is almost possessed by a demon. Some more.
He's gonna get there way sooner than
he will
think.
get there. It's inevitable.
So it's weird because I think in the 6th movie with like not the Cursed Child, I forgot what it was called. They insinuated that he was like cursed with some kind of like demonic possession type deal.
Yes.
But in the first original one, he was just a person.
Just a dude.
Yeah. So I don't know where they're going with it now because they're saying they're kind of him and his sister are linked now. It's weird. I don't know how they're doing that because they're not even related now. Again.
They changed that lore up as well.
Right. But I got time. I can take a nap. Mike's not immune to bullets, so I can fly across the ocean, get into some kind of compound. We getting cameras everywhere, and we getting landmines everywhere. If he makes it through that shit, I'm just dead. Or whatever. I can take a nap before I die.
That's the thing. You can rest. Resting is big O. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I get lazy as hell, and I take naps.
I saw Freddy get punked by Kelly Rowland, bro. Like
you can't count that movie.
He tore her fucking nose off.
Jason. You can't count that movie.
That was Jason that came up and took her out.
No, he took her nose off in a dream.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he literally
came up and sliced her from
No, I'm
behind.
not talking about her death, but he literally ripped her nose off in a dream. Was fucking with her the entire time.
Yeah, Freddy was doing that. I think Jason did finish her off,
Yeah.
though. But that's the point. That's Freddy versus Jason. That was the two of them.
Everybody real big and bad with Jason for that first 24 to 48 hours. You're not sleeping. Once you get into 72, where you're sleeping while you're awake, oh, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's what happens. You don't realize you're dreaming while you're awake.
Yeah,
and he just fucks you up.
And no matter how much medication, these motherfuckers were burning themselves on stovetops, taking adrenaline, and you still crashing at some point. You get no rest. Yes, the war of attrition. You get no sleep.
It's inevitable. I think that's the thing.
I'm just gonna go to sleep. Like if you get me in my sleep, then cool.
I'm cool.
I mean, fair. If that's fair, if you're cool with that, that's fair. And the thing is, you are free to make your choice.
I'm still getting my sleep.
Plus,
I do not fear Freddy Krueger. I've never feared that man.
Plus,
if he get me there, that he's just stronger.
Freddy likes to torture niggas too. Mike usually just kind of gets to the point. It's a quick kill usually.
Yeah, Mike's another entity. He does not.
Yeah, he doesn't really. He admires his kills, but he doesn't like. He's a quick kill. He's like an apex predator.
Didn't we have a whole thing we were talking about in Halloween Kills? How he just chose to torture people in that one specifically.
So
like how he made his wife watch her husband get stabbed repeatedly. Like, didn't we talk about that?
We did talk about this. This is another.
That's a reboot though. That's one movie. The rest of the movies, he like. Or even it's inconsistent.
That's the most recent movie.
That's what I'm saying. If the rest of him, he doesn't really do that too much. He admires his kills. And that one too, that one movie too, that was kind of inconsistent because that first one, he went through a whole one take where he's just slaughtering people back to back to back to back with quickness, like on some like Assassin's Creed type shit. He's just back to back to back.
That's because they caught him outside and he was outnumbered, so he had to get the quick.
No. That first one where he's going, that huge one take shot where he's going from house to house,
down the street,
killing people in like living rooms and shit.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's like he got straight to the point. That one scene, I don't know what. I guess it was the whole thing. He was amped up because he was in jail for a minute, or I don't know what it was, where he put that old woman and that old man up. Because everyone else
seemed inconsistent. I almost wouldn't even take that as actual lore of the consistency of it.
Freddy, though, we know Freddy gonna torture you in the worst way. He gonna get your worst insecurities that he can figure out, and he gonna fuck with you in the worst way. I'm cool. I'm cool, bro. I don't need to get killed in a dream by getting like drowned by snakes and shit like that. I'm cool.
What I would say is unless you are literally Guts with a big ass Dragon Slayer sword, because he was hunted down too. In a large sense, Guts is a person who fought both. He fought monsters in the real world and he was hunted down while he was trying to sleep. Unless you have a big ass, massive sword to battle these things, you're fucked. One way or the other.
Dead corpse.
Yeah.
Isn't that
he was born out of a dead corpse.
That redundant? A dead corpse?
Well, yeah, born out of
that's how
corpse,
fucked up it was. It was a dead corpse.
Born out of a corpse. It was.
Like, is it a corpse? Is it if it's not dead?
She woke up dead.
If it's a dead corpse, that means
like what is a live corpse if that was a dead corpse?
Oof. A zombie. I guess a zombie's a live corpse, right?
Pretty much. A ghoul,
a zombie?
Or a vampire.
A vampire is definitely a live corpse. That's 100% vampire.
Yeah,
which dovetails nicely into Morbius. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Go watch it.
It's not. It's nowhere near as bad as what people think.
I told you it wasn't gonna be that bad, man. Everybody gassing that shit because they don't like. I don't know what it. I guess I get the hate boner for Jared Leto after the Joker shit. if he would have not have taken that role, people would not hate him as bad because he shit the bed in that one. He made that people would hate that man with a passion. I think he did. I think he did all right in this one. And Morbius, I think he did all right. I liked him as Morbius, but yeah, that Joker shit put a stain on your career, my boy. I'm sorry.
Also, he chose to male use condoms, not us, not Warner Brothers. He chose to
use condoms,
so.
dead rats,
sex beads. Yeah, use sex beads.
Yeah. First off, did he use them or who used them? That he just. Anyway,
I'm not gonna ask.
I will. Fuck that. Anyway,
and on that note,
this has been another episode of the Then and Now podcast. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch. Shout outs. Go make sure you guys check out everything at Blurred Approved Entertainment on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Watch the shows. We got Baychan, the Blurred Cartel.
All that stuff.
What it sound like. We got a bunch of good stuff over there. Black created content, Black owned content. So if you guys want to support us, again, if you can follow us over, please go to the YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube. I'm trying to get that off the ground first. If you guys want to see us in particular, go to the Then and Now podcast on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, let us know what you guys think. Any other closing remarks from my distinguished co-host?
Nah, not at all.
Not today.
No.
Well, this has been another episode of the Then and Now podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you guys